Hi, this is Boone Slot Car Garage. Let's do this. Hi, I'm Boone and this is Boone Slot Car Garage. And tonight we're going to go ahead and we're going to work on our HO layout. So, if you remember from the last video that we did, what we were able to get accomplished is I was able to get the table all built, described how everything works with that, and I was able to get the track and get it up on the table. Now, the track wasn't complete. There was a couple pieces that I still had coming in the mail, but I received those and I received my new power base. So the track is complete and it functions. Thank God. But now that we got that out of the way, we can start moving forward with some other stuff. So the next thing we need to go ahead and do is go ahead and start setting elevations on the track. So there's going to be about, right now, about 3 different hills that we're going to do. One of which is on the main straight where we have the ream straight. There was on the actual straight by the Dunlop Bridge, there was kind of a fall away hill. So we had to go ahead and create that. Plus we have the area of like Road America where the Corvette Bridge is at in that uphill climb. So we have that as well. Now these 2 areas I went ahead and already pre-built. You're saying, well, Boone, I thought you were going to show us everything. Relax, we got it squared away because the final hill that I had to build or need to build is the Laguna Seca Corkscrew. Now the actual structure of the hill is built, and the reason why I went ahead and did that is because it took me quite a bit of time just to figure it out, get elevations all set, and just kind of rough in the hill itself. Now, saying that, one of the reasons why I wanted to make the corkscrew is because I wanted to do it as close to the actual corkscrew itself. There's been a lot of corkscrews made on different layouts and stuff like that, and we have the general shape, but the corkscrew really drops off, and I wanted to try if I could actually do that. So that is what we're going to try to do tonight. Now, I went ahead and laid the track up there, and I have it kind of roughed in. Been playing around with it and stuff like that, but to go ahead and finalize it and really see if we can do this, I want to bring you guys along with me. So I'm doing this for the first time, and I thought, well, what the heck? You know, we're going to film this. Plus, the corkscrew is going to show everything there is about making hills, not only for HO, but also for all the other different scales as well. A lot of the fundamentals that go into making the corkscrew as far as bending the track, getting the contortions right, and everything else where the joints come together with the track you use that in 1/32 scale, 1/24 scale, 1/43, and obviously HO as well. HO is a little bit harder on the mere fact that we're dealing with such a small scale that even a little bit of just twisting it just a little bit can make a world of difference. So, saying all that, we have our work in store for us, and it's kind of an R&D project and see if we can pull it off. So, with that, I think it's a good idea to grab a cup of joe, maybe some popcorn, because this could get exciting, all right? Let's do this. All right, so there it is. So I went ahead and I put those extra pieces in there, and we got a new power base going on, and yeah, voila, we have ourselves our final layout. So that is what it's going to be. I'm not going to change this anymore. I've ran a few cars around it, and real happy with the way this works out. So being that said, let's go ahead and take a look at this. So if we come down right over here, and the first off is our straightaway. Now this is where the reams pit lane is going to be, right up over in that area by the counter and in this piece of track right in here. We'll have that Reams pit lane. Now, I was looking at pictures of the old pit lane and stuff, and there actually is a hill at the end of the pit. And so I went ahead and thought, well, if we're gonna do that, we might as well go ahead and put our hill in. And the hill is just right on the other side of the Dunlop Bridge. And I'll go ahead and put a picture up so you can kind of see what I was going after. So I couldn't quite tell as far as how high that hill was, how much of a drop it was, but I did know that I didn't want to get too extreme with the hill being right on my straightaway. I'd like to have somewhat of a straightaway on the track. So I just went ahead and constructed a simple little rise, and I just used the polystyrene as the base. And what I'm gonna do is just go ahead and wedge it up with, just kind of secure it up. There's no reason to lay two sheets of polystyrene for this. We can use the one sheet and just use some wedges underneath to just go ahead and secure and bring that all up. So that is pretty much the way that elevation was made. Real simple, real straightforward. Now, the elevation itself is about 6 centimeters, and that comes out to about 12.5 feet tall. So if we take our little Matchbox car there, you can kind of see the height as far as relation with that. So that would be about 12.5 feet or 3.84 meters tall. So that's, or amount of drop. So yeah, I mean, that'll turn out pretty cool. So being that was the easiest one to do, I just went ahead and did that. And then I also did a slight bending of the track. You can see how it kind of slopes down a little bit. It's not all straight. It actually, the hill itself starts to bend right in this area. So I just used a little bit of heat and gradually just kind of pushed it down, and I was able to get a little bit of a gradual decline as far as to create that. So it wasn't all straight. And then again, down here at the bottom, I was able to do the same thing. Use a little bit of heat and just slowly kind of warp that board a little bit. So that was pretty straightforward. Now, let's go ahead and we'll work our way around here. So we come down through our straight and we come around this corner, and this is the area that we're gonna model after Road America. And what we have is the hill that's right here, and that hill will be like the Corvette hill that's down there. I think that's like turn 5 and 6 on Road America. So I'll go ahead and put up a picture there as far as reference goes. Now, as far as finding the actual height of the true hill, again, I was kind of stuck as far as looking at pictures and everything else and just trying to figure it out. But what I kind of came up with was a hill of around 11 centimeters. So at 11 centimeters, that would work out to right around 23 feet, or that would be 7.04 meters. So from the pictures I could tell, I mean, there was a bunch of different angles and stuff like that, and it's not like a huge hill, but it has a pretty good incline to it. So I went ahead and created that as well. Now, same thing here. You can see how that track right there, how it gradually goes up, okay? So we went ahead and used a little bit of heat there, and I was able to put a little bit of a bend in that area. And then when it comes up here on the rise, I was able to relax the track a little bit as well. Now, the track itself is sitting up off the board just a little bit. So what I'm gonna do is that the HO track, this Tyco, has a little hole right here. And what you can do is put pins in it, or you can put screws to go ahead and screw down your track onto your layout and secure that in. And being that this track is real pliable, I mean, it has some bend and everything else to it, what I'm gonna do is just go ahead and use those holes and then screw this down, and then that'll suck it right down to where we need to be. Now, the actual hill itself, as far as the structure goes, I used the 3/16 thick hardboard, and I used that as my base plate right here. Now, the reason why I did that was a couple different things. First off, I have to worry about weight, and that's pretty white, or pretty weight friendly material. And the other thing is, being it's 3/16, I can bend it real easy. I mean, you can take this stuff and bend it and make some pretty cool shapes, and it's gonna keep the form, so it's, you know, it's all nice and smooth. It isn't all, you know, just kind of rickety and everything else, which then you would have to go in there and do some sanding and some cutting of the boards to get it to all flare out correctly. So I went ahead and just constructed that up with a few different pieces. If we come up on top, you can see how that's kind of goes through here, and then there's another piece at different angles and then drops down. Now you'll notice that, like, up in this corner right here, tracks off just a little bit, but you'll notice that I have it right here next to the side, but there's a bunch of space on the outside. Well, the reason behind that is I'm gonna go ahead and create these corners as far as apexed corners. So the track itself will look like the racing line, and then we will build curbing around the outside of the track, so that when it's all painted and we paint the track all out, it'll look like, you know, it'll look like the surface of the circuit, but the actual turn pieces and stuff like that will be part of that apex going through the corner. So it'd be kind of cool when it's all said and done. But if you look at this, you'll notice that I don't have any nails in this or anything else. I actually constructed the rise by using hot glue. Okay, so hot glue works out pretty cool with this stuff. You can go ahead and glue it in there, and it makes it real easy. I mean, that way you're not having to hold stuff and try to hammer it in. You can actually put your hot glue in, stick your stuff down, and just kind of keep on going right along. It kind of frees it up. It's a lot quicker. You don't have to worry about trying to support stuff with a screw gun or with nails or anything else. So that worked out real good. And the other thing is this stuff's strong. I mean, it's strong. It's not coming apart. So put enough hot glue in there and she's stuck. So there we go. So there's all that. And so there's our Road America hill. Now it comes around, and that's going to be the area where we're going to have the carousel corner from the Nürburgring. So that short little area right there. Don't know what I'm doing through here. Probably nothing, not sure. And then it comes back around, and I decided right in this area, since I had some extra corners, that we're gonna create the S's from Le Mans. So I'm gonna go for the vintage S's that you'd see like in the movie Le Mans or something like that from back in the 1960s. So that'd be kind of cool. That's gonna be an area we're gonna build, and then comes back around, loops through here, comes down, and then we get to this corner. And then what happens there is that we start the incline up the hill for the corkscrew for Laguna Seca. And this is gonna be the area that we're gonna go ahead and work on tonight. Now, the reason why I'm doing this and not the other ones, well, it's because the corkscrew, it's everything that we need to do with all the other hills is all combined in this hill. Now, I went ahead and I constructed the base. Again, I just used hot glue and was able to put that all in there. And being that I was using this hardboard, I had to work around it a little bit. Now this thing is high, okay? If you look at that, I mean, that is pretty good size. You can see that car up there and everything else. And I have another little car on the back side over here, and it's good size. Now, if you look at those boards, it's like, what the heck you got going on? Well, being that the amount of drop that the corkscrew has and everything else, I couldn't get this hardboard to bend the way that I wanted to. So what I had to do was go ahead and cut it off into triangle sections and then just makeshift it all together. I was going, man, we gotta get this. So that is what I was able to come up with as far as to create the understructure of it. And come back over here and we'll just kind of go through all this. Now, the top peak, which is right here in the corner, that is, if we go back off of here, from the base of the table to that point is 29 centimeters. So what that works out to is 61 feet or 18.56 meters in 1/64 scale. So pretty good size. The actual corkscrew itself is at a little over 59 feet. And I'll go ahead and put a picture up as well so you have kind of a reference. But from turn 8 to turn 8A, it's 59 feet. Now the whole entire corkscrew, if you go all the way down to turn 9, which is, I believe, is the rainy corner, it's 109 feet difference from the top of the hill all the way to the base. Now I wasn't gonna be able to do that. I wanted to, but I would have to make even a bigger table, and I don't have enough room in the garage to do it. So I just went ahead and stuck with the upper portion of this. So you can see how that just drops right off. And then we just got all this makeshift boards and everything else. And what I did in there again is I just used the hot glue and hot glued everything together. And it's amazing. I just, I was thinking, I was like, how am I gonna do this? And I started saw my hot glue gun, and I thought, let's try this, because I was doing a bunch of mocking, as far as mocking everything up with duct tape and boards, and the hot glue was kind of like, well, let's try that. Tried a little spot, and then I found out, it was like, geez, this is really staying in there strong. So I just kept on using it, and it's strong. I mean, it's not going anywhere. It's in there. So that'll work perfect for what we have to do. So you can see it comes all the way down through here, comes around that, onto the front straight, and down it goes. So that's the whole entire layout. And this is the monstrosity that I built as far as the corkscrew. So what we're gonna do when we come back is we'll go ahead and take this corkscrew to the next step. Okay, so what we have is we have the hill. And if we take a look at this, you can see how the HO track is real pliable. You can see how it just bends real easy. So if we go up on top, I'm just going to set my hand here, and I put my finger right here. You can see by that area, if we put a screw into our track, you can see how it forms right across, and it's not squared or anything else. It has a nice round to it. Now, what we need to do at this point, let me go ahead and let's see here. So we have that. As it comes down, and it comes down into the actual hill itself, we're going to need to fasten it down through. And you can see how these corners now are banked as they go down. They aren't off camber or anything else. So it goes banked down in, and then we have this area that if I hold this down here and I take my finger down in this area, and let's see here, we'll go right here. You can see how that banks it back around. So by just fastening this track to these certain areas, we can go ahead and create the flow that comes down through it. Now let me go ahead and disconnect the track. So I'll just go ahead and pull this off. I'll pull it off down here. We'll take a closer look at the construction of the hill. Now, like I said earlier, the hill itself is a modge podge of a bunch of different cuts. And if you come up on top and you take a look at this, you'll see that I did angled cuts into different triangles and brought it down in stair step. And you're probably looking at going, man, it looks like some kind of abstract sculpture or something like that. Well, it kind of is. We're getting abstract for slot cars. So what we're trying to do is make it flow enough. We're going to have to stair step it because the board itself, I couldn't bend it. I could bend it straight down, but I can't bend and twist. So by not being able to twist, I had to create angles into it to get that flow that comes down through. Now these areas in here are little platforms where the track can sit on that are kind of wedges that are all hot glued into place. So at this point, I have it kind of set up where you can see that if we just go ahead and start fastening our track down to our base, we can start forming it. Now up on top, you can see where the little bit of deficiency in these areas where it was off. I took a rasp, so I had a rasp, and just go ahead and slide, you know, filed those down so that I can make a little bit more of a gradual decline into the next board. So, saying all that, now what we need to do is I'm going to go ahead and connect the track back up into it, and we can start fastening the track down and getting it locked into place. All right, so what we need to do first off, before we start screwing stuff down with a little screw, is that we need to secure the track down to certain points. So what I'm gonna do is just go ahead and take some duct tape, and I've sliced it in half. And what I'm gonna do is just go ahead and tape this down into place so I can secure it and it won't move around, okay? So just kind of an extra set of hands to help you out. So we go ahead and we got that, and now we have this up on top. So what I'm gonna do is just go ahead and I'll put another one down here to hold that. Now that we have this, we have that guy secured. Now we can start putting pressure down on this, and it's not gonna pull our track off on the hill. Now the reason why I'm doing it up on top, then starting down at the base of the hill and working my way up, is that I don't want to lock myself in. This corkscrew area is the most critical to get correct. That actually the upslope is real easy. We can float that around and make adjustments as we go. But being that this is the most critical to get exactly where we need to be, I'm just going to go ahead and do that and then figure out where I'm going to put my first screw at. So my first screw is going to be right up here up on top. And all I'm using are just a little countersunk flat topped, okay? So it's flat topped countersunk screw. And I'm just going to go ahead and put that in here with my my cordless drill. And when we come back, I'll have that secured in, and then we'll start working our way down. All right, so we have our first screw up on top, okay? Now I haven't finalized that. I'm just putting this screw in there right now to hold it into place so then I can figure out where everything else is gonna be. Now, I need to put a second screw up here on top, because if we look at this joint, okay, and if I let it relax, it starts pulling away from it. So I need to get that so it's gonna stay put. So I'm gonna apply upward pressure on this, put my screw into here. Let's see here, I'll get this started. Apply upward pressure. Get that to stay into place. Now this joint is going to be good, okay? Now I can start working down below. So next area, if we take a look, we come down through and we have these little pads that I put in there. And the reason why the pads are there is that they're hitting certain parts of the track to help support it as it comes down. Now my next one that I will put in is going to be down on this corner right here. And I want to make sure I keep my pressure up into here and then put that one right here. And you can see how it's making those bows and everything else so that we have bank corners. Nothing's really going off camber. We have a little bit of an off camber on this one right here. But what we need to do is get a little bit of a heat and a little bit of a twist. And it might have to shim on this board to get that to come up. But my next screw, I'm going to go ahead and put right into here. So we come back, I'll have this screw set, and then we'll start worrying about our upper area of the corkscrew. All right, so I have a screw down here, I have a screw down on bottom. Now I need to start worrying about my joints as far as where the track joins. Since we're taking this thing and not only are we tilting it down, but we're giving it a serious twist, we got to make sure that our connections are going to be together, because if they're peaked or if they're like kinked too hard, when the slot car comes across it, it's going to want to jump out of the track or it's going to push it a different way. So after I got that in there, I have this section of the corner right in through here. And what I have is when it peaks up here on top, I'm having issues with this, okay, with that joint right in here. So what I'm going to need to do is do a couple shims. So I have a shim that I made up here, okay, and I'm going to go ahead and set this in. And then once I get that set in, it relaxes this piece of track enough that it's going to be a nice transition. Now, unfortunately, by raising this one up, now all of a sudden we're catching flack right in here. So when I have another one is another shim, I'm going to go and set in here, and then with this little wedge, I'm going to go in and set on this side. And what that'll do is it's raising the base up to it where I can go ahead and put my screws in, and I can get that to lay flat as well. So how I'm going to put my shims in, so this guy right here, is that I have my hot glue. So I might as well show you guys this. So I'm just going to go ahead and hot glue this in. That way I don't have to worry about putting screws in it or anything else. So we just put that, we go right down like this, and bam. We've got the first part of the shim. So there's that. Now I have this pre-fit, so I just need to put that guy in there. So I'll take this, put some hot glue like that. Set this in, and now I have my shim. And by doing that, it improved this up on top. So now I have a nice transition there, comes down. It kicked this up a little bit, so now I have a little bit of a banking coming in and then down into that corner. So next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and figure out the shimming down in there. And we come back, we'll have that all set, and then it'll be time to hit it forward with a little bit of heat and get everything the rest of the way secured down. All right, so now I got my shims in on the hill, and the contour's a lot nicer as it comes down through. We got a lot smoother descent down the hill. So at this point, what I want to do is go ahead and take my heat gun. Let me grab my heat gun real quick. So I have my heat gun, and what I want to do is go ahead and put it on low heat. All right, I don't want to use high. I mean, high obviously is going to make it it's going to heat it up a lot faster, but the problem with high, especially with this type of track, is that you can go from just warming it to full-on melt in a snap of your finger. So in order to alleviate that, I'm just going to go ahead and put on low, and what I'm going to do is just go ahead and come over the track a little bit, and what that's going to do is soften the plastic a little bit so it'll contour a little bit nicer down through our slope. So when we come back, I'll go ahead and heat this up and we'll see what we got. Okay, so I went ahead and I hit it with the heat, and we got our contours down in here a little bit. It just softens the track, helps it form all in. So we have that, comes down through here, and it kind of smoothed out a little bit of the ripple that we had in certain areas. And now what we need to do is go ahead and pull these screws back out, but one at a time. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and pull out my screw, and then I have a countersink. And what I'll do is I'll put it down in the hole, and then we'll countersink that hole so we can put our screw back in. So let me go ahead and I'll pull this guy out. So there's our screw out, and then I'll just take my countersink, and depending on what size screw you have, obviously, is what type of countersink as far as the head. And I go a little bit oversized just so it pans it out a little bit more. And sometimes this takes just a few times to get the correct depth. I'd rather, you know, go a little bit at a time than too much at one time. Then all of a sudden I'm pulling my screw all the way through the track. So Let's go ahead and set this guy back in. And he's a little bit further. So I'll go ahead and finish this up. When we come back, I'll have all these screws all set in. All right, so I went through and I got everything countersunk. And then the last thing to do is just the final tuning. And the only way you're gonna do that is to grab your car and start running around the track. So I went ahead and I ran it through a couple times, and I was having some issues with some of the contour right in this area. What was happening is it was too sharp, and then it had too much of a roll in this area. So I had to soften it up. So if you notice, the top of the track is up off of it a little bit. So I had to bring that up, because when it was down, when it came into the first part of the corner, the track had too much of a twist, and when the car got down in there, it just wasn't making contact. So had to loosen that up a little bit, made a little bit more of adjustments, but for the most part, it's working pretty good. So what we need to do now is we need to run the car around the track and check it all out. Okay, so I ran into a little bit of issue. The corkscrew itself going down works great in both lanes, but I'm having issues with the top as far as the crest of the hill coming into this section of track where it goes down. And what's happening is that the car is actually starting to like three-wheel, okay? So it's not getting good contact on this section right up in here. And you can go through it if you carry momentum and it go through and then carry on down. But I want to make sure that we have constant contact going all the way down the hill. So in order to do that, what I'm going to have to do is take this piece of track out. So I'll just go ahead and take this out. And my plan is to get a little bit more of a relaxed in this area, because even with the heat, and you can see that this is bent a little bit, is that I'm not getting enough. It's pulling too much tension at this joint, and it's twisting the track. So what I'm going to do to get it that extra little bit is I'm going to go ahead, and you'll see I have tape marked on here. And what I'm going to do is take my hacksaw, and if you've seen my other video where I was bending scale-electric track, okay, one of the things I did is I went ahead and cut reliefs in the bottom side of this to make the track a little bit more pliable. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and cut a few reliefs down here on the bottom with this and create this area of the track where it has more give. I can manipulate it more without it working leverage against me into this joint and then into this part of the track right here. So when we come back, I'll go ahead and cut this all, you know, as far as cuts going through it. And you got to watch out because you have your rails that are right here on the underside, okay? So we don't want to get into those. All we're interested in are these two outer sides. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut this right across there and just do it just enough where it just starts to kiss where the actual guide, oh shoot, where the guide goes, right? So the underside of this, I'm just going to hit it so it just slowly starts to just kiss that and then stop. So we come back, I'll have my reliefs cut, and we'll see if we can't solve this problem. All right, so I went ahead and I cut reliefs on the sides, on both sides here, okay? So what that's gonna do is just give the track a little bit of give so we can go ahead and manipulate it without it binding up on the underside. So next step we need to do, and I went ahead and I kind of heated this up a little bit, but we need to do a little bit more. So what I'm doing is I'm just going to go ahead and click it right back into the track here. And then I have a block of wood that I'm going to set right over here on the crown. Now, it's up just a little bit, and I want to take a little bit more of this tension out of it. And if you can see, I need to kind of work it back just a little bit. So I'm going to put my board back in here, and I'm going to use low heat. And we're just going to go ahead and just apply pressure. Just kind of heat this up. And once it starts to warm up, it actually, you can feel it. You can feel the tension go away underneath your fingers as far as the pushback on the track. And at that point, we'll go ahead and just bring it up a little bit further. And applying equal pressure again. What we're going to do is just relax this track. And then that'll take the tension off the top of this. And then hopefully, this will alleviate our problem. So let me go ahead and hit this a little bit more. And you can see I'm just moving a little bit forward, applying a little bit of heat, and we're getting a nice contour. And then don't keep the heat gun at one spot. Move it around so you're just kind of equally heating everything up. You don't want a hot spot and then the track moves a lot more in one spot than the other. So we'll just go ahead and do that. Let me turn this off, keeping pressure down, and then we'll put that down, and there it goes. Yeah, so a lot better. So we got a nice contour. It's going to match up to this area, and we'll come back and we'll see how our corner's doing. All right, so I have this hooked up on top. I went ahead and tested it with the 9-inch corner with this guy right here. And this is what I originally had into it. And you can see if I put this in, it's a little bit different. You know, the corner's a lot sharper up on top. What I was having issues with, if you look at this, okay, it's got a twist to it. Now, this twist all by itself with the car on it is okay. It still touches on the underside as far as the pickups on the bottom and actually, you know, hits. But that's when the track's relaxed. When the track is under pressure and it's down like this, by pushing it down, it's creating too much of a twist, okay? It's twisting too much. So I had to get rid of the 9-inch corner and go back to a 12-inch corner, okay? So I went ahead and I have a 12-inch and a 12-inch that takes the place of the 9, and then another 12-inch corner down below. So again, this is all kind of an R&D project as we're filming it, just to see if we can actually build this corkscrew. And by replacing that piece and then putting in place these 12-inch corners, it's alleviated the problem. Now I can actually, I have it up on top. I've got a nice transfer into the corner, and I don't have too much of a twist. And it's actually, you know, it's still laying upon the boards, the structure that I have. There's a little bit of a gap down in here, but that's no problem. I can go ahead and make that up with just putting in some shims down here to fill in that. But it has a whole entire flow to it. So let me go ahead and I'll show you real quick. So let's get this car on there, and I'll show you how this actually works. All right, let's give this a whirl. So there's one lane. And now let's check out the other lane. So we'll grab this relic and we'll try this again in the other lane. And there it goes, success. So we got ourselves the corkscrew and it works. So now you can see that I have my famous duct tape, you know. This is a lot of times I'll go ahead and secure things with duct tape before I go ahead and start screwing everything down to try to get it. Now, I jumped the gun on the other stuff with the prior test that I did. It was working, but once I got up to the top here, it just threw everything off as soon as I started to tighten down everything. So just revert back to the larger diameter corners and alleviate the problem. So now what I need to do is just go through, finalize my shims, and button up this track, and we got it. We actually built the corkscrew as far as the structure goes, and we still have the same amount of pitch going down the hill. It's a little bit more relaxed in the first corner here, which I believe this would be considered turn 8, and then that's 8A. So we got that, and yeah, it's a win. So I'll go ahead and button that all up, and we'll tie this thing all together. Okay, so we finished it all up. I got everything screwed down and everything is fastened together. But yeah, looks pretty good. We got a good, nice, steep, pitch down there into the corner, and it goes back around. So the corkscrew itself, as far as the base structure, is all taken care of. So now at this point, what we need to do is just go ahead and start finishing it up as far as all the scenery, making the hill that comes down, and filling all those gaps with that polystyrene. So that will be for a future video. But as far as this one goes, we got it all complete. So at this point, well, let's go ahead and wrap up this video. So we were able to pull it off, and we have a corkscrew that resembles pretty close to the actual corkscrew as far as the distance and the drop and the height, and and it kind of makes you cringe when you go over the top of it, because if you go too fast you can see how your car just go sailing. So with that, we got it done. And, like I said, this was just kind of a whole entire, I was just shooting from the hip and just seeing if we could actually pull it off. And we did. This part of it is done. The hardest part is complete. So after that, now what we need to do is go ahead and get the edging put up there to make it look like the actual track that goes through. And we're going to use the actual track, the Tyco track, as the racing line. So we have some curbing we need to build on the outside and everything else and make that track look like the apex going through the corner. So that's going to be pretty cool. And then after that, we can go ahead and start adding our polystyrene and get all the scenery all complete. So we've got that done. We have our hill for turn 5 and 6 from Road America, with the hill that goes up where the Corvette bridge is at. That one is all roughed in and shaped. And we have the hill that comes down the straightaway, like from Reams, where the Dunlop bridge is at, in that drop away hill. So we got that in as well. Now, there might be another hill I put in. Don't quite know. There's kind of that no man's land right there in the middle of the track. Not quite sure what I have planned in there. I'll probably keep it flat and just do some other stuff, like maybe a tunnel or a bridge or something along those lines. But we do have where the carousel corner is from the Nürburgring. We need to go ahead and make that track kind of banked. So that is a future video that obviously we're going to have to do. And I might save that for when we actually start working on that portion of the track. So, saying all that, today was a success. We were able to go ahead and do it. So, if you like this video, like it, share it with others, and please subscribe to my channel. And also, with that, we also have this, which is our Facebook group, and that one right there, which is our Instagram group. Come on over, check it out. It's kind of fun. And yeah, we're having fun, right? So Next time on Boone's Slot Car Garage, well, you know, I've got some stuff to do on the 1/32 scale layout that's just kind of sitting in the corner. So I might actually be jumping on that one next. But don't worry, I won't be gone very long from this one. We'll be back. All right? So until then, I'll see you guys later. Hi, this is Boone's Slot Car Garage. Let's do this.